Hello and welcome to episode 535 of Fergo on the Freak. I'm the bloke from Rugby League project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Join me this... For some reason in my head, I was going to say, and joining me this week, like it's any fucking different to any other week, is the glorious League Freak. We're going to leave that in there.
Yeah, just leave it. Doesn't matter. Like when I join, it is weak. You know, right. I've joined.
Maybe it's more of a commentary about how absent we've been.
Yeah, maybe.
Going, yeah, you know what? Sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's monthly. Yeah. The glorious League Freak. You can also find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going well. How are you?
Look, it's been a bit of a foggy week for me. We'll briefly go through what happened. I got concussed at work. Didn't get knocked out, but got concussed and took a few days for the symptoms to hit me. And on the day of recording, I was foggy and tired and weak and a bit nauseous. And I went, well, instead of saying I'm concussed, I can't do it, I just said nothing until about 2 days later and went, oh, yeah, I've been concussed.
Yeah.
And Freaky does this thing where he comes across going, yeah, mate, that's okay, don't worry about it. But I know he's going, you fucking dog. I've been sitting here waiting to do this fucking episode, and there's just been radio silence from you. Who the fuck do you think you are? So
pretty much, yeah.
Sorry about that, mate. Sorry about that. I thought I'd better do the apology on air publicly.
I just wonder, like, is this where you say, oh, I've got CTE, and then someone says, oh, but that's not possible, and you go, well, you know, I was talking to a mate of mine, and he said I probably have CTE.
Yeah. Well, I spoke to an English doctor anyway.
Yeah.
Because they know.
Yeah, they just know.
Yeah, I definitely CTE.
Yeah.
What else could it be?
Well, that's what I reckon.
That's right. Well, we'll go with that.
Yeah. So, what's been going on in Rugby League lately?
Look, all that matters is Parramatta, as of next week, are basically going to have the wooden spoon.
Mm-hmm.
We've already had a chat about what Parramatta's got coming up over the next 2 weeks. And was it the Broncos this week in Brisbane?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Dragons at who cares where. And basically Parramatta, if they lose both of those games by a margin of 30 points or more, then by the end of next week, they will be sitting last. And then we've got a round 27 game of the year. Campbelltown, Tigers versus Parramatta for the spoon.
Yeah, it'll be a blockbuster.
The place will be absolutely just thumping with people. It'll be great.
The eighth wonder of the world, they call Campbelltown.
Or maybe eighth and a half.
Well, I can't think of anywhere else you'd call the eighth wonder.
More like we wonder about that. Sort of the 8 curiosities of the world.
I like the way that when the West Tigers win a game at Leichhardt, they say, oh, it's like this celebration, what a magic moment. It's like, it's only a magic moment because the team is so fucking bad that any time they win, it's a magic moment.
It's because the media have this massive hard-on for Leichhardt Oval.
It's weird.
And obviously they don't have it for Campbelltown. Campbelltown's been around since, 86, 87. Leichhardt's been around in the game anyway, at first grade level, since 1934, 35, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We go, oh, we've got to love these old grounds. God, yeah, they're so great, aren't they? They're so great. There's been more white ants at West Tigers games than there have been people over the years.
Yeah, and it's like...
That's not being facetious or stupid either. That's a fact.
They literally have had white ants.
One of the stands is condemned because of them.
Yeah, it's. I don't get it. I'm always of the thing of like, the way to get people to go to football games is to give them an environment that is nice to go and watch a football game at, because you've got to get them away from a giant television that's in at 4K and, you know, they can, you know, order in, they can whatever. Yeah. And so you've got to give facilities that are really nice and comfortable, easy to get to, easy to get out of, stuff like that. So I just don't see the thing of like these flawed places where it's like, oh, I love sitting in the grass on a hill that's at a weird angle. And I just don't get it, where there's no toilets and the food options are terrible and there's no parking. It's like, that's not fun to me. I don't know who that's fun for, but it's not fun for most people. And that's where you get a place where it's like, oh, they've got 12,000 people in here today. It's silly.
Yeah, no, I'm a bit torn on it, okay? I love old grounds,
Mm-hmm.
but because of the history aspect of them, and I like to go see them, I don't like seeing the modern game being played in them.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. So a good example is you go to grounds like Leichhardt. There's a number of them over in England. What's that one out of Bradford?
Oddsall.
Right. These are great grounds to go to and just say, I've been at that ground where these great things in the history happened.
Yeah.
Does not mean I want to see first grade world-class rugby league playing here, because I don't think that's how it should be used.
No.
And if you are, treat it the same way the Bulldogs do with Belmore. We make an event for one day of the year at that venue. Like, we'll have one game there every year. Come along and enjoy the venue for what it is and what it's provided. I don't think it should be a venue that we should be trying to play 3, 4, 5, 6 games a year at, which is what they're going to be doing next year.
I called game at Belmore, and it was I think it would have been a New South Wales Cup game at the very least, and I had to park up the road, and there weren't many people there. They had about 8 parking spots designated for the whole place, and it wasn't much better at Cogra. Hey, like Cogra, I called.
Cogra is actually about the same as Shark Park, in the sense that you can walk there pretty comfortably from the train. It's not too big of a slug to do that.
Yeah, but only Povos take the train. That's
right. That's right. Hand in the air, that's me. But yeah, it's not difficult to get to via public transport. There is fuck all parking. You're doing it on residential streets and stuff like that everywhere, which is just horrible. But it's just been that way since day one. Yeah. Leichhardt, though, is different in a worse way because you can't get there by train.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, unless it's changed. I don't remember being able to get to the ground by bus either. You could get dropped off near the Balmain Leagues Club when it was there.
Mm.
And you walk from there to the footy, which wasn't too bad. It was probably a little bit long for kids and stuff like that, maybe, or people carrying toddlers and babies and whatnot. That'd be a bit of a slug. But it was a bit more cumbersome to get there.
Yeah.
Because you are taking a bus to get there. You're not taking a train. So it was a bit more cumbersome. And, yeah, there's no parking there either. It's just residential everywhere. So it's always been a bit tricky, that one. I like the ground. I like Birchgrove Oval, but it's for the fact that it's a significant part of the game's history. That's why I like it. But I'm not keen on having games played there on a regular basis. As I said, once off, I could take it. It'd be a novelty thing. It's fine for that. But that's about it for me. I'm not really keen on seeing 4 or 5 games there every year.
Yeah.
Which is what's going to happen next year. But Blandys wants to, so,
What he wants, he gets.
That's right. That is right.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we go on to the big news?
Yeah.
We had a new immortal added.
Yeah, Ron Coote got added to the immortals. What is he, the 14th immortal?
He's the 14th immortal.
I know you and me have the same sort of feelings about the immortals and the Hall of Fame and all that. And at some point, I just get to the point where it's like, I just can't argue the facts anymore. And I just got to realize that it isn't what I would like it to be, and that it is what it is, and that's it. And so Mm.
I was going to say, that was, for me, the situation it was when Rugby League Week was running it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Some magazines made the rules. It's going to be their decision, so there's little we can do about it.
Yeah.
The NRL now owns it. So this is what's making it a little bit frustrating. And I'm going to start this, okay? I am not opposed to Ron Coote being made an immortal.
Mm-hmm.
The bloke was going to be made an immortal sooner or later. Unbelievable. And if it hadn't have been for Johnny Raper, the career of Ron Coote would be spoken about in the same breadth as that of Clive Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
He was that good, but he was also an all-time talent who just happened to be playing in exactly the same position at exactly the same time as another all-time amazing talent, Johnny Raper.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? It's the same argument you're going to get with Wally Lewis and Brett Kenny. If Wally Lewis was never around, Brett Kenny would be spoken about in higher praise than what Wally Lewis currently is.
But here's the thing. He was around.
Yes. No, well, that's what I'm saying. Like Brett Kenny, Wally Lewis, it's the same as the Johnny Raper, Ron Coote thing. Right? They both played against each other. They played at the same time in the same position.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of what I'm trying to get at there. But I'm hearing a lot of people in the media saying, "Oh, now that we've got Ron Coote signed up, we should." I think the saying was, "We should close the door on the first 70 years of the game as far as immortals go." Boom.
Well, it's only 70 years of the game. I mean, it's very, very well documented history. One of the only sports in the world that's history is documented before it was even a sport.
Yes. Yes.
And thoroughly documented too.
Yes.
Like not just a little bit here, a little bit there. Oh, we had to search for this. Like thoroughly documented by multiple media sources across the world.
Oh yes. Oh yes. It's as a person who studies the history of that early part of the game, that first 50 years especially, hearing the media and reading about fans and commentators that were around at that time, absolutely just loving what some players were doing and not just saying, "Oh, this bloke was the greatest." They actually went into depth as to why.
Mm.
You'd read newspaper articles explaining, constantly talking about, "Oh, this guy did this, and then he did this, and then he did this, and he was involved in this," and it's just on and on and on, just goes on and on and on and on and on every week, every game. You go, "Yeah, we get it," and then you hear what they did after they finished and the impact they still had on the game, and for some of them, still have on the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, we're putting, I hate to bring him up, but putting Andrew Johns in there, which just seemed like I don't know, like a token gesture, I guess. They felt like, "Oh, Andrew Johns is the greatest halfback we've seen in our time." So, yeah, but you know what? From 1920 until the year 2000, year 1990, they did this thing at the end of every decade where journalists got together and they put together who they think are the greatest of all time in each of their positions.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, in that whole period, 1920 to 1990, there were two players. Actually, there were three players, who were in that team nearly every year that I can remember. It was Messenger, Frank Burge, Duncan Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Sterling in 1990, the best of his career has gone behind him, he did not usurp Duncan Thompson from that list. So even journos in 1990 were still recognising the feats of a guy from 70 years ago as being the greatest halfback that had played the game. That's a hell of a legacy. And it's not until Andrew Johns comes on and they go, "Okay, this bloke's now better."
Yeah, but say I'm writing an article about the best halfbacks in 1990, right? I need to be knowledgeable about the game's history. I need to, give reasons why I'm doing that. If I'm doing it in 2024, I'm writing something clickbaity. Well, it would be something like
Luke Brooks.
Luke Brooks. Well,
people will click on that and give her an opinion, won't they?
it would be something, probably something along the lines of like, how many years until could Nathan Cleary be the first, immortal that's still playing, right? Now, whether you think that's, and personally, that to me makes me angry even thinking about that, right? But whether you get people that think, oh, that's a great idea, or people that thinks, oh, that's a terrible idea, you've tapped into the clickbait thing. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of with this stuff is that, if you're talking about Duncan Thompson as a possible immortal, it's the right choice, but it doesn't get you anywhere near the same clicks as if you do an article and say Cooper Cronk should be an immortal.
Yeah, that's right.
Cooper Cronk shouldn't be fucking anywhere near the Immortals. And that's the way I felt about, and I don't know if we should get into it yet, but some of the Hall of Fame inductees. And
well, we can get to the Hall of Fame stuff. We're going to head in that direction.
Okay. Because there was two that jumped out at me, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Well, I wanted to go and revisit a system I suggested the last time we inducted Immortals.
Yeah.
I've got to bring it up because I put it. The system is still good, but I've had to change one of the players in and bring Ron Coote in because I didn't initially have him in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
who did you have for Ron Coote initially? Then was it
Ken Irvine?
Sorry, go on.
Ken Irvine.
All right.
Yeah. So the system I had three rules. Okay. So rule one is 2 players picked from every calendar decade. So it starts with 1900 to 1909 and so on and so forth. The nominated players only need to have one appearance in that decade to qualify. And the reason for that is it doesn't have to be their best decade either. It just allows flexibility. Because if you get 4 players that all played in the 20s,
yeah,
but some might have played a few games in the 30s and some might have played in 1919, you can spread them across to make sure you get them all included.
Yeah.
So it also means that you are essentially making it tougher for everybody to have too many people in there. Because if you go for the absolute elite and you squeeze them in wherever you can, you've got no wriggle room to put others who you go, oh, maybe this guy, because that's how the immortal place should be. Should be looking at it going, can I really knock that bloke out for this one? And if you can't justify it, you go, well, no, he's not an immortal, is he? And that's the way. So I did that so you could have that flexibility there to have the absolute elite in there to every decade.
Yeah.
The end of each decade will see players picked from the decade prior to the one just completed. So therefore, in 2029, we would be able to name the 2 immortals for the 2010 to 2019 period. That way we've had an entire decade after those players have retired to consider and discuss without any recency bias getting in the way, whether that person should be included or not.
Yeah.
Like the classic example is, how much did everyone just immediately think that Jonathan Thurston was going to be immediately inducted into, become an immortal?
Yeah.
And not saying that he shouldn't be, but more the fact is that talk has quietened down a lot since he retired. And that's a classic example.
Yeah.
And the final rule was a player must be retired for at least 10 years and be in the Hall of Fame before they can be nominated for immortal status.
Mm-hmm.
So this is who I suggested. For 1900 to 1909, Dally Messenger, he's already there, and Arthur Halloway. So for those who don't know, Arthur Halloway has, across his playing and coaching career, has won more premierships than anybody else involved in the game. I think it's 10 or 11. No one's beaten that. How does that not be deemed as an important thing? And he played Test football, quite a lot of it, went on a few tours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's been a part of some of the greatest dynasties, or 2 of them at least anyway, and that is the Balmain dynasty from 1915 to 1920 and the Roosters of the 30s. He was the coach. He was player coach for the Balmain one, and he was the coach of the Roosters one.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty significant. 1910 to 1919, Frank Burge is already there, and Duncan Thompson. For those who don't know, I don't know how because I've mentioned this so many times, is Thompson, phenomenal player, revolutionised the way halfbacks played the game everywhere, and went on to become a coach and a selector. He then became one of the very first, or actually the first mentor for Wayne Bennett when he turned his hand to coaching, which means essentially, indirectly, so long as Wayne Bennett is a coach and he's had people who he's taught to be a coach, there's elements of Duncan Thompson that's coming through. It's still in the game today.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a legacy that I think should be regarded, that no one else has from that far back. 1920 to 1929, Harold Horder and Jimmy Craig. Horder, one of the most phenomenal try scorers in the game's history. And Jimmy Craig was dubbed Mr. Versatile. He played a lot of interstate football for New South Wales and Queensland, was huge in getting the Queensland game, not just from being the easy beats against New South Wales, but made Queensland so strong and helped with their big push forward that they became the team that was dominating New South Wales through the mid to late 20s. Just phenomenal and very successful player as well. He won premierships in Brisbane and in Sydney, and played Test footy as well. 1930 to 39, Dave Browning's already on there, and Herb Steinhort, very prominent Queensland forward. 1940 to 49, Clive Churchill's already there, and Duncan Hall, another very prominent forward. 50 to 59, these two are already there. That's Gaznia and Norm Proven. 60 to 69, these two are already there, and that's Langlands and Raper. 70 to 79, Bob Fulton, Ron Coote, they're both there now. 80 to 89 is Wally Lawson, Arthur Beaton, they're both there. And 90 to 99, Meninga and Andrew Johns, and they're both there as well.
Yep.
So Andrew Johns can move into the 2000s one, which means you could open up the door for someone who played at any stage, any number of games from 1990 to 1999 to join Mal Meninga in that one. But that would mean that you could only add one extra one from the 2000 to 2009 period.
Yeah.
So those are your two options. So you can have one person with Mal from the 90s.
Yeah.
And one person from the 2000s, or you can have two people from 2000 to 2009.
I think you would probably keep Johns in the 90s just because I think over the next 20 years after the 90s, there's a bunch of players that you deserve their place. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So the ones I'd be looking at would be that need to be considered to be added in there from the 2000s to basically 2019 period.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be looking at Brad Fittler, Darren Lockyer, Cameron Smith, Billy Slater, Greg Inglis, and Thurston, I guess, would be the prominent ones to look at there. And the other one would be, to be considered from the 90s, would be Glenn Lazarus.
Well, that's the thing, because forwards aren't sexy choices for these things, you know?
No.
And, I mean, Glenn Lazarus is, without question, find me a better prop forward ever than Glenn Lazarus, first of all, and then find me a better prop forward ever as a better resume than Glenn Lazarus. And on both accounts, I don't think you can, to be honest. And then you've got someone like a Shane Webke, who, once again, his resume is outstanding and was, I think, as good as Glenn Lazarus in terms of his ability. And I think it would be easy to overlook those two. And both of them probably deserve to be in there. But at the same time, if you look at, say, 2000 onwards, I mean, the first guy I would have to name is a Lockyer. And then I would think the second guy for 2000 to 2010, it's got to be Cameron Smith because he had such a long career and it's a good place to put him. But then after that, I mean, Greg Inglis has to be there from 2010 to 2020. He has to be there. But then you've got one place. And is that where you put Thurston in and leave out Slater? Do you put Slater in and leave out Thurston? And because they're the two that jump out. But then the other guy that definitely deserves to be there 100% somewhere is Jason Taumalolo. And so that restricts...
Taumalolo, though, can go into the 2020 to 29 one. So he's still available to go into a later one.
He is, but I'm trying to think. So let's say we cap and it's only 2024, right? The dude that we pick for 20 to 2030 might not even be playing yet.
That's the thing, and that's the beauty of this. So that's the thing
it might be frigging Galvin from the West Tigers.
Because you can look at this and go, it would be great to be able to put Cameron Smith in it, but we don't need to put Cameron Smith in this one yet. He can go in the 2021.
True, but when you select them, you don't know what's coming ahead of you. That's
right. That's what makes this an interesting juggle. That's why the 10-year gap is handy, because you can go, right, who do we put in for that period?
Yeah, because like if you did it for the first 4 years of this decade, and who it looks like it might be, like the players you would have there would be like Cleary's going to be in there, obviously. You've got Tedesco; he's going to be there in there, definitely. But then who else would you like?
Well, there's
DCE would have to be one you'd consider.
Benji Marshall.
Was Benji still playing? Yeah, he's still playing 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few there that have got that history that just crossed into the 2020s. So yeah, there are some options around. It's tricky. It's tricky. The other one that
it should be tricky.
Exactly. That's the beauty of the system I've got there, is that you have to literally pick the elitist of the elite. And by having that freedom to go across decades, just where they might have just snuck in.
Yeah.
So you can fit them in somewhere. It means that you're limiting. So if we were to say, right, we're going to put Cameron Smith in the 2021, you go, right, okay, we can only now draw on one other person to join him there.
Yeah, because, you're still playing 2020.
Yeah.
And,
See, the other person that you haven't mentioned, which I surprised is not just you, but just a lot of people don't mention, is Brad Fittler.
He's listen, I feel like I like your system, right? But if it was up to me, the qualification for being an immortal would be absolutely outrageous, which I think it should be. And this is not going to be a popular thing to say because it was a pretty popular selection and all that sort of stuff. But Ron Coote wouldn't have made my immortals if it was up to me.
No, as I said at the start, I didn't have him in this initially. I had Ken Irvine in his place.
Yeah, and on that regard, that's the same reason why Brad Fittler, and it's not saying that either of them weren't great players, and the best player in the game at one point, and the accolades, there's just no question about the level of who they were and what they did. But that's the point. It's not the these guys were extremely good. It's like, no. These guys were beyond good. These guys were immortals,
They literally changed the way the game was played.
Yeah, and that's why, I look at someone like a Cameron Smith, okay? Cameron Smith is just, you can't argue against it. He's going to be an immortal. He just is, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to, I don't think there's a way you can get upset about that or anything. It just is he's one of the few players in history of the entire sport where it's of course he's an immortal. Next, it may be Clive Churchill is maybe the only other guy I can think of that's in that same class of of course, maybe the first one picked. Next, who's the next one we're going to debate? That's not to say that the likes of Badiris and Steve Walters and your mate Benny Elias is it's not to say that they're not amazing, game-changing, would belong in any team you ever put together. That they were great players, all of them. but they just weren't quite Cameron Smith. And that's what the Immortals should be.
Cameron Smith, in my view, is Steve Walters with several upgrades. Like Steve Walters is a very good game manager.
Yeah.
And that was the basis of his career. Cameron Smith was that plus more.
Yeah, like like a bigger Steve Walters.
Yeah.
And then he was, captain from so early on at every level he played at, and it didn't affect him one bit. He was a great captain, one of the best captains we've ever had. And then you add in just won so much at every single level. And then the extreme, never before seen longevity that he had. And on top of that, all of the records that he broke. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like, you would have to, like Steve Walters, if you said, imagine taking Steve Walters and he has a 20-year career.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about with Cameron Smith. And that's why the Immortals need to be that level that is so, it's almost unattainable. That's what the point should be about it. And I don't believe that there should be dozens of Immortals, because it's just, that's not what immortality is.
Well, no, that's what I was trying to sort of get at. So you've got 2 every decade. It's 20 per century. That doesn't seem too much to me. Out of like 9,000 players, we've picked out 20 to be the absolute elitist of the elite.
Yeah.
Yet I have, every time I've talked about this, I have people saying to me, that's too many people. I'm going, based on what though?
Well, the cat's out of the bag for too many at this point. Like,
but can we really be honest though that 14 is too many at this stage as well? Like, my suggestion is I'd have 22 in there at this stage.
Personally,
I don't think it's too many.
Personally, for me, I would have 4.
4?
Yeah. Say you had to pick 4.
Why don't we just just create another level? Just have gods.
Gods of Rugby League.
Yeah, we just take them out of the immortal list and put them in the gods list.
But just say, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. I've been saving this for a rainy day.
Absolutely.
It's the Mount Rushmore thing.
Yep.
Who would be your Mount Rushmore of Rugby League in its entire history?
Entire history?
Yes. And there's no 5. It's 4.
It's 4.
Full stop.
Okay.
Can we both agree? Okay, let's get the ones out of the way that we both agree on, right? Clive Churchill.
Clive Churchill?
Yeah, easy, out the way.
Yep.
I'm
putting Messenger in there.
I would too. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. It's like out of the way. Don't even have to, done.
Yep. I am also going to put Duncan Thompson in there. Just the legacy, man. I can't look past it.
That's all right. It's your 4.
And Arthur Beetson. I don't think there's been another 4 players who have been more influential in the game at the time and moving forward for the rest of its history than those 4 players.
Okay. So I've got my first 2. I have not ever chosen beyond the first 2 we've talked about.
I'm going to say, I was just put on the spot there. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah. Okay. What if my ones are first 2 we've done? Wally Lewis.
Uh-huh.
And the Frenchman, Aubert.
Oh, hang on. So you're going to include players from overseas as well? I thought we were just doing Australian players.
Dude, it's my Mount Rushmore.
I didn't know. I thought we were just doing the Australian players.
Okay, well, let's stick to Australian players then.
I'm not opposed to Aubert, man.
Okay.
Unbelievable. But yeah. I'd almost be inclined to have to throw in a few of the Poms as well from the very early days.
Okay, well, let's go. Okay, let's wipe the slate clean. Right? Wiping the slate clean here.
At least Harold Wagstaff.
All time, Rugby League, everywhere in the world, your top 4.
This is nuts now.
And this to me is what the Immortals should be.
Or
Immortals.
globally.
Immortals. The names that live on decades and decades and decades later.
Yeah, man. I know I need some other parameters to go with to narrow it down.
Okay, here's your
for
parameters.
me, okay, the two there's two.
Here's your
Frenchmen,
parameters. I'll give you your parameters, Andrew. Okay.
Okay.
4 players from the entire history of the sport on this planet. There's your parameters. I've done mine.
I can't, man. The thing for me, okay, is that there's two Frenchmen that I would love to have on there,
but you can't.
But I can't, and the reason being is I'm trying to put people in there based on their longevity and impact on the game, other than just when they played.
Okay, I think
some people had a bigger impact off the field than they did on it. Like for example, okay, Wayne Bennett had a much bigger impact off the field than on it, but he still played Test football.
Yeah.
But when you look at someone like Puigdemont is phenomenal.
Yep.
But at the same time, not game changing in what he did, but at the time, clearly one of the best players of all time. And
yes.
Those people in the 50s got to see the greatest thing ever, and that was matches where Puigdemont was up against Clive Churchill. You lucky fuckers.
Yes.
Oh. So the other one was
no, you're trying to run away from it.
There was another French player who was absolutely significant in getting French rugby league up and running. It was Jean Gallier.
Mm-hmm. I knew you were going to say him.
He took so many sacrifices to change codes and get rugby league up and running, and was so significant in rugby league, going from strength to strength at the most rapid rate it has ever done in any country at any time. And that's a largely off the field thing, but he was still a phenomenal player on it. Played, test football for France in league and union.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think someone like that should be ignored given what they did and what they sacrificed to get there. Not saying other players hadn't, but that was insane and at the ridiculously short notice.
Okay, but we're not ignoring people.
No, but that's the thing is, I can't just put those two in there and go, oh, I've got the rest of the rugby league society and I've only got 2 spots left.
You can if you want to.
But, no, but it can't work that way.
Okay, I don't want to let you off. I don't want to let you. I named mine. I know. Here's the way I look at it, right? If I go anywhere in the world of rugby league, okay, and I say those 4 players' names, everyone knows who they are. And not just knows who they are, but it's like, oh, yeah.
I will go with I'm just gonna fucking wing it.
Okay.
All right?
It's just rugby league history.
It's just my entire credibility on the line.
There's no pressure. There's no pressure. But everyone's listening, so you better get this right.
Yes. There's only one right answer, and it's not my answer.
It's not your answer. No, it's my answer. Go on.
That's right. Okay.
Who's your first one?
Churchill.
Ooh. No, obviously. Okay, so we've got Churchill's definitely there, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Just pick another one.
Yeah. I've got an outsider. I'm going to leave that till last.
Okay.
I am going to throw in Arthur Beetson.
Okay.
Ooh.
Wow, 2 Australians already. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
Who else? Immortal.
God.
Will forever be known.
God tier God.
You can't pick Nathan Cleary yet. He doesn't qualify.
Oh, fuck. What about Luke Brooks?
Doesn't qualify.
God damn
Doesn't
it.
qualify for any.
He's the only man who got a barbecue. How's that? How can that not be God status?
He's in the barbecue immortals with James Maloney.
Yeah, we'll put him on the Bunnings immortal list.
Yeah. It's all right. You've just got to pick 2 more players from the entire history of the game.
No, I've already got the other one.
Okay.
I'm saving up. I've got one left I've got to get.
Okay.
I'm down to my last one.
Okay.
Okay.
It's Clint Gutherson, isn't it?
No.
Okay.
Jim
Sullivan. It's a pretty good choice.
And the last one?
Yep.
This is not a joke one. I'm being legit here.
Okay.
Ellery Hanley.
Okay. It's a pretty good choice. I'm not going to argue against them.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, no one can argue against any of these, to be honest.
No, but this is the level it should be at. Look, Ellery Hanley is without question. If you had to pick English immortals, he's just one of those, of course, ones.
Well, when they started up the English Hall of Fame, he was one of the first ones they inducted. And he was still playing, I think, at the time.
It's just who he was, yeah.
There's just some players that you watch. Wally Lewis had it as well, where you just watch them. And the only player I've felt had this since those guys was Benji. And you saw them get the ball and just went, something's going to happen here. And more often than not, you were right. They just had that presence about them on the field. And that's kind of what I was going for when I was picking them. I went, who are the players you just went, something's going to happen here?
Well, it's say in our lifetimes, right? And I know you're, 25, 30 years older than me.
Yeah, I've got the wood on you in the age department. Yeah.
But in our lifetimes...
and this is the reason why I'm so big on Duncan Thompson. I'm the last person who saw him play.
Like, who have been players like that? Like, I think of someone like a Lockyer.
Definitely Darren Lockyer.
Yeah.
So in our lifetime, I'm just going to run off a few. Lockyer, Billy Slater, Cameron Smith, Greg Inglis.
Yep.
Laurie Daly. For me, Ricky Stewart, Brett Mullins.
Mullins. But I'm talking about I'm not talking about for a small period of time. I'm talking about their entire
career. Well, I suppose you could. Yeah, I'd still leave Daly and Stewart in there. They were just on a different level for a lot of their careers compared to a lot of the other players we're playing against.
What about
some players?
Do you rate Langer higher than Stewart or below?
No, below him.
You don't. That's interesting. I remember while they were playing, I rated Stewart higher than Langer, but as time has gone on, I feel as though I rate Langer higher than Stewart.
I think that's just because Stewart was so injury riddled for the back half of his career, and it just limited his performances so much. But when they were at their peak, I thought Stewart was comfortably better.
The other thing is too that you think of Langer, he was playing Origin in the 80s. And then he played right through the 90s and played a little bit after that, not much, but tiny little bit. That counts for something.
Absolutely.
And that's through, and we talked about this, that's through 2 different eras too, where he was an elite halfback, where it was the pre-modern era, but before the 10-metre rule come in, and post-modern era, after the 10-metre rule.
Yeah, I mean, he's made his Origin debut in 87, and he played his last Origin game in 2002.
That's outrageous. Yeah,
he started in the time when there was a 5-metre rule.
Yeah, and so that's why for me, now with the perspective of time, which is what the entire eligibility thing of being 10 years should be about. Like looking back when you're out of that moment. That's why, to me, I think that Langer is more of a significant halfback in the history of the game than Stewart. And I'm not putting down Ricky Stewart as a halfback. He was outstanding. But we're talking about at such a high level, it's ridiculous. Like we're talking about it's like saying the Mercedes Formula One team is a slow car compared to Red Bull. Like that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
The absolute elite of the elite, of all time.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're bagging Ricky Stewart or anything. It's just these are the conversations you have to have when you're talking about players of this caliber, and when you're narrowing them down so much.
So who's on your Rushmore?
Of all time, I told you.
Who? Sorry?
Oh, it was Messenger, Churchill, Aubert, and Wally Lewis.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
All backs, hey?
All backs.
Yeah, that makes me a bit uncomfortable, but there's only 4 places. I'm sorry.
Guess who the winger was between us?
Who?
You.
Well, I was. But
oh dear.
I'm rewarding the skillful, better players. That's all. Like all backs are. That's all.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. I was playing the backs myself.
What about? Oh, come on, Andrew. Listen, as a winger, I'm offended by that comment. How dare you call yourself one of us?
Oh dear, dear.
Oh, far out. Okay, what about Mount Rushmore of forwards? Just in Australian Rugby League history. Let's keep it Australia this time.
Forwards?
Yeah.
Beatson?
Yeah.
Johnny Raper?
Yeah.
I'd be probably inclined to go Ray Stir.
Okay.
Anyone who was a teenager and made their debut in the front row.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And not just any teenager. He was 16.
Yeah.
That's some fucking nuts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And, you know what? I feel like I should be biased and be a little bit outrageous.
Okay.
Paul Sirenen.
Oh my God! How dare you? How dare you?
What?
What about Burge?
He's overrated. No.
Mine would have been.
No. Look, clearly, it would be Frank Burge. Okay, to me, there hasn't been that many unbelievable standout talents in the forwards in Australia. England for a long time produced better forwards. No, I think if we're talking internationally as far as absolute game changers in the pack, Australia didn't really start doing that until the 60s and 70s. That's why when we have our immortals, the guys from the 60s and 70s who dominate that era, they're all forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had Beaton, Raper, Ron Coote, even Bob Fulton was playing a lot of his career in the lock position. So it was pretty dominated by that area there. And that's because the way the game was being played in Australia at the time was very bogged down in the middle of the field. So the forwards were dominating the play.
Mm.
England, though, were, for the years prior to that, they had better skilled forwards for a lot longer of a period of time behind, for those 60, 70 years prior to, that period.
Mm.
What we had to be competitive with them, though, was at times either better halves or better, faster outside backs. That allowed us to either stay in the contest with them and stuff like that. But once the 60s come around and once the 70s came around, we got out of the hard slog in the middle and we started playing a bit more open football. We had some of the most elite players of all time all come through at once. And into the point where it was kind of like, remember in the mid to late 90s in one-day cricket, the only team that could compete with Australia in the one-day level was Australia A.
Yeah.
That's what Australia Rugby League was like in the late 70s, throughout the 80s and early 90s. We
Yeah.
could have fielded the two best teams in the world.
And I remember when there was actually talk that they might have an Australian A team in the World Cup, which I'm glad they didn't do. But, I remember them talking about that. Like, should we have just another Australia A? It'd be another competitive team in there.
Well,
but
I
think
think the embarrassing thing was kind of like what happened in the cricket, though, is that the Australia A beat the Australian team. Like, oh, hang on, who's the fucking better team now?
Well, and it's like all of a sudden, being what Australia is, like we all cheered for Australia A because they were the underdog.
That's
and,
right.
All of a sudden you're cheering against the fucking one-day team, which at that time was also the test team, which is how it should have stayed. And, and they were the arguments against doing that. But, look, my Mount Rushmore for forwards would probably be Burge.
Yeah.
Beatson, Lazarus, and Matt Adamson. No,
yes.
And you like that one.
John Bateman.
No, because my last one, it's between Norm Proven and it's got to be Cameron Smith, and it kind of has to be Cameron Smith, doesn't it?
Oh, so you're leaving Johnny Raper out?
I think
I don't classify modern day hookers as forwards anymore. They're just an extension of the halves now. So I never, whenever you say forwards, I'm thinking big meaty blokes. I'm never thinking of the hooker, because that's the thing. Ken Kearney should have been in that conversation. I just wasn't even thinking of that.
I know when I had Ken Kearney in my all-time team, I know you were like, I know you did that fucking silent fucking head nod. I knew you really approved of that.
Oh yeah.
And this is before we'd even talked. He had been on that team for 10 years. He probably was on that team before Cameron Smith's career started,
Yeah.
And he's one of the guys that's probably gets forgotten about way too quickly, because you look at his achievements as a player and what everyone said about him as a leader and stuff. There's a lot of Cameron Smith in that.
Oh, absolutely.
And it took a Cameron Smith for me to replace him in my all-time team. So it's difficult. It's difficult.
Oh, absolutely it is.
I also think of Johnny Raper. Like, I know he's a lock. And without question, he was a lock. But like he'd be a modern day 5'8" without question.
Yeah, the best way to describe him is so what he was. The lock forwards back in the 60s or 70s were like a slightly more skilled second rower. They played a little bit wider of the ruck than your modern day locks do. Your modern locks are basically a third prop these days.
Yeah.
But when Johnny Raper came around, you've got to remember, he came around the same time Arthur Beetson was around.
Yeah.
And Arthur Beetson became a prop that turned up, and he had a fucking passing game.
Yeah.
He was able to step at the line. People were like, what the fuck is this bloke? Why is he just running into walls like everybody else? He had all of that extra stuff. He took it to another level. Johnny Raper was like if you had taken Brad Fittler and dumped him in 1970. That's what he was. Yeah,
and he was like, he was super fit. Like he prided himself on his fitness. It like would have had more leg speed and stuff than the other forwards around him. Like just this new thing. Sometimes you see it. It's like you see this new thing. I mean, Jason Taumalolo is kind of like that, where you get this guy that's like 120 kilos and he's got this absolutely ridiculous footwork where he can move that giant frame in a split second, and you think you've got him and you haven't got him. But he's also ridiculously strong. Like we see something like that come along every so often in rugby league. I think Mal Meninga was kind of like that with this fucking giant centre who was a super athlete when he was young and then just turned into like this friggin' prop forward that was also fast as he got older, out wide though,
Yeah.
So we see players like this come along every so often where they're just this new thing, and it's like, what the hell are we even watching here?
That's what I've always said. Like, that was the thing that was always interesting about Andrew Fafita when he came along. He was the first player we've had come along in a long time that gave people an inclination as what it was to like watching Arthur Beetson when he first came along.
Yeah.
But hang on, it's not a prop that just runs forward all the time. He had a step. He had pace off the mark going laterally. He had an offload. So what the hell is all of this? Like, to see a prop running across the field looking for an opening and then hitting it and getting through. And then the next play, he's just taking crash balls. You're like, what the hell is this bloke doing? It just blew your mind. You're going, yeah. Now imagine what it was like if all you ever saw from a forward is hit up, hit up, hit up, hit up, hit up, hit up, and then Arthur Beetson comes along. You're like, it's like watching Benji step the first time. That's what Arthur Beetson was like to the rugby league world. What is this?
I guess another player like that was Steve Menzies.
Oh, absolutely.
Where we were like, okay, he's the size. He's like not like even the same size. Like, he was a big second rower, really, when you think about it. And his ability to break the line and to time his runs and stuff was just so outrageously good. And his ability to run off of players and stuff. And, I know we all used to make jokes about him when he played, as like he'd basically get a pass from Cliff Lyons and fall over and he'd score a try. That's how he scored most of his tries, as a joke, because he's one of the greatest try scorers of all time. But like, it must have been a similar sort of thing with Frank Burge, where it's like,
the parallels are really, really remarkable.
Yeah, where it's like, because Frank Burge, when you look at rugby league history, like, he's one of the anomalies that stands out, as is Steve Menzies.
Yes.
Where it's like, hang on, what was this thing that was going on here? And that's where you start like digging into it and reading up about these players and stuff. And I mean, he's just Burge was a great try scorer, full stop. And, he was a forward, which is just crazy, especially for back then.
Yeah, and look, he started out as second rower, moved to lock, then he ended up in the front row. You look at Menzies, started out in the second row, filled in at centre a fair bit, but moved to lock, and then ended up. And he moved to lock at a time when the lock was basically, as I said before, like your third front rower.
Yeah.
They followed very similar lines. The difference was Menzies did play quite a bit more game time in the back line, but that's because he actually played a fuckload more games. But they both followed very similar career arcs in that sense. Very good support runners, very good line runners. Insane defenders. Frank Burge's defense never gets any mention, and understandably, he scored just an absolute shit ton of tries.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, 136 tries in 114 games at lock.
That it doesn't even make sense.
60 tries in 61 games in the second row. 49 tries from 55 games as a prop.
Like, imagine being a higher score rate than Semi Radradra, but he did it as a forward.
He was competing for a long time for try scoring rates with Harold Horder, who's scored more tries than he did play games.
And look, Steve Menzies was doing that too.
Yeah.
And so, like, Steve Menzies' significance in rugby league history, it will get downplayed by a lot of people, and for the wrong reasons. I think it's because his try scoring was so good, and you feel like it shouldn't. I think there's a similar thing with Alex Johnson, where his record is what it is. You can't argue his record.
Yeah.
But it's so good, and when you line them up against the very elite players in those positions, it's actually better than those players. But you feel as though the player themselves maybe isn't of the same quality as those elite players. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like Alex Johnson isn't as good of a winger as, say, Josh Adokar, right?
Yeah.
But his try-scoring record is, without question, better than Josh Adokar.
And you've got to ask yourself, for a winger, what are some of the main things they need to do?
And the first thing is you've got to finish
Score
tries.
tries.
Yeah. And then that's the thing. It comes down to that question of, like, what do you want out of a rugby league player if it's not this, this, and this? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want out of your second rower if it's not winning premierships, being one of the best players in the premiership winning side, being one of the first pick for New South Wales, being one of the first pick for Australia, and scoring more tries than most backs ever will in their entire career? Like, what more do you want out of him?
That's right.
And I think that's what breaks people's brains with someone like a Alex Johnson or a Steve Menzies.
See, I'm going to blame one little bit here, okay?
Okay.
Ellery Hanley scored 281 tries in 307 games over in England.
Mm-hmm.
That's very similar to the Steve Menzies ratio.
Yeah.
He's one of those players who was so good at what he did in every aspect that people often forget how prolific a try scorer he was at times.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other players, like Menzies is a classic example, he was only seen of in his early days as a prolific try scorer.
Mm-hmm.
And he got compared to Burge based on the try scoring aspect, not on any other aspect of play, when there was actually a lot more similarities between him and Burge. And you didn't start to see it until he got to the back end of his career when he stopped scoring tries so frequently.
Mm-hmm.
People started going, this Menzies bloke's a pretty good defender, isn't he? You're going, he always has been.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing that I find fascinating is that sometimes this is the difference you get between people who understand and actually watch the way players play as opposed to people journalists who just look at stats and go, oh yeah, this bloke was great because he's got a lot of points. Yeah, it doesn't kind of just work that way.
Yeah.
And players evolve and change and stuff as they go. But yeah, it's
just on Hanley, just before we leave Hanley,
yeah.
I saw a thing, and it was on Twitter, and I wish I could remember who brought it up, but they were like talking about if you had a team of 13 of these players at any point in history, who would win from this and this and this, and somebody said, like, I'd take 13 Hanleys to beat any other team of 13 other players from 13, say, Taumalolos, or 13 Darren Lockyers, or 13 Brad Fiddlers, right? They said Hanley. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't know that I could argue with Hanley because he was so versatile and could be, like, you could put him at 5'8", you could put him at lock, you could put him in the second row, you could probably put him in the centres. You could just do so much.
Yeah. Good defender, could make the big meters if needed, had a great step, great turn of pace. Fuck, no one. When he got out of a tackle, those first 3 or 4 steps after making a bit of a break, people just didn't get near him. The only player who had close to that same impact when they got through a gap was Brad Fittler, but his was more off his step than through sheer pace.
Yeah. I think the other thing with
step
Hanley
was ridiculous.
I think the other thing with Hanley too is, like, growing up in an era where British Rugby League is part of on its decline. And if you think of its decline officially starting when the 80s started, and I know it was starting before that, but that's when they stopped beating Australia.
But that was, let's be honest, that was because Australia finally caught up to England and went ahead, not because England was going backwards. England really started going backwards at the end of the 80s and start of the 90s.
Yeah. But what I mean is, like, you could probably officially say it had started in the 70s.
Yes, you could.
But, like, anyway, watching them from this era through their decline, Hanley is one of the very few English players I've ever seen where I'm like, that guy gets rugby league. He gets it. He's like the equivalent of any Australian player in terms of how he thinks about the game and how he looks at the game and what he sees as the goals of how to win the game. And I think that's something that is a problem. There's a problem for England at times, is that I think they look at the game very differently. And I say Australians, it's not Australians. It hasn't been just Australians for forever now, like for decades. And you just have to look at like the Kiwis and even the Tongan team and stuff like that, what it takes to win a rugby league game and what the goals are and what you've got to do to win that game and stuff. And I think that the way we see it in probably this part of the world, they don't see it the same way over in England and even in France, I would suggest now. But he was one of those guys that got it and you knew it, you know?
Yeah, when you come up against him, you just thought, we need to, instead of trying to figure out how to stop this guy, you immediately went and go, right, we can't stop him. How do we limit the amount of impact he has on the game?
Yeah.
And that was, you have to go after the people who feed him the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, try and take away the weapons that are around him that he's going to use.
Yeah.
Because stopping him as an individual is going to be very, very difficult in itself.
That's right. It's just nuts. We could talk like this for hours.
Yeah, I know you and me love these sorts of chats. I'm glad we're recording it for once.
That's a good change.
Yeah.
Let's shift over to the Hall of Fame because we had a bunch of players inducted there.
Yeah.
So we've got Jonathan Thurston, Ben Elias.
Yeah, let's go through them one and one. Do you want to go through them one by one?
We can do that. Jonathan Thurston.
It's obvious.
Obvious? I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah.
Got no issue with that whatsoever. Benny Elias.
Obvious. And you know it's obvious. And I know how you feel about Ben Elias, allegedly. But you know it's obvious.
I'm not here to argue.
Okay. I know you can't say it.
No, look, I'm going to say this, okay? I'm talking purely about his playing career.
Yeah.
He played the game as a hooker, different to everybody else at the time.
Yes.
Okay. He played more like a skilled halfback than he did a rugged hooker.
And the other thing about him too, like, didn't win a premiership, obviously, but
he went an inch away.
Yeah, I've heard about that once or twice.
Fucking hell.
But can't underestimate how good he was for New South Wales. Like in terms of performance for New South Wales, probably in the top 3 ever.
He's definitely up there.
Yeah.
To continue getting picked, even as he was getting to the twilight stages of his career and still putting in the good performances that he did.
Mm-hmm.
He was tough. He was a hard bloke to get down and keep down.
Mm-hmm.
He could take a hell of a hiding and often did. But yeah, very crafty player, especially from dummy half. The last of the old school rakes, as they call them, who was really good at raking the ball, getting the winner, gets the feed in the scrums, raking the ball out of the play the ball.
Yeah. When he would strike at the play the ball one when he used to be able to. He was really, really good at it.
Very effective at that. Had a pretty solid kicking game. Not many hookers were decent kickers at that time either. And he was a very good kicker, which added a different dimension to the Balmain attack and the New South Wales and Australian attack as well.
Yeah.
He could put that kick in every now and then. Not because he needed to, but to take the pressure off the halfbacks. If you ever saw the halves were being pounded by the opposition defence, he'd take the kick, and it made the defence go, oh, shit, we've got to look after him as well.
Yeah.
And it just took that pressure off the halves as well. And he had a pretty good understanding as to when to do all of that. So, yeah, I'm not opposed to Benny Elias being there.
Mm-hmm.
I was just hammering up for the drama.
Yeah, yeah.
Benji Marshall.
Once again, like, hard to argue. Generation of players all reference Benji Marshall. as being who inspired them to pick up footy, who they wanted to be.
Well, I mean, you're starting to see it now with some of the signings that the Tigers have made. I want to be coached by Benji.
Yeah. I think the more I think about Benji Marshall's career, like, can you imagine if he was in the side that was imagine if he had the Panthers side around him. His record would have been Lockyer-esque.
Oh, absolutely.
And in terms of like winning and getting the job, because I watched him win games that he should never have won and winning them single-handedly in a busted team, an absolutely busted team. And that's why I used to love watching him in the West Tigers games, because you would watch him just drag this team kicking and screaming to wins they had no right to win. And then on top of all that, you think of the triumph of the 2008 World Cup, which is this flag point in the history of the game, in my opinion. Just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. He's just when you thought he'd peaked and he was starting to drop off, he changed clubs, and usually changing clubs can be, more often than not, it's a sign of a downfall of a player. They don't tend to continue that good form. It was the best thing he ever did.
Yeah. Well, do you remember the year after, like he come to the end of his year at South and he was like tossing up, going around again? Do you remember me saying, I hope Penrith signs him?
Yes.
Like in that bench role, like to be able to make that work, I think it said a lot about his ability, and not only physically as a player, and he become a really good defender at the end. It was kind of crazy, but the way he thought about the game, and he's just been able to outthink everyone as a player.
He slowed down half a step, not physically, but mentally. And he started seeing the play unfold before he played.
Yeah.
Which is what good halfbacks do.
Yes.
And we didn't get to see that until the later end of his career, but when we saw it, we were like, holy shit, this guy's just got another level in him. And he could have kept playing.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely could have kept playing, for sure.
There's a few dubious ones here. Cameron Smith.
I guess. I mean, got to give the Queenslanders something, right?
That's right, yeah. Greg Inglis.
Yeah, once again, touch and go on that one.
And the final one is this the final one? Steve Renouf. Oh, no, there's more.
No, there's plenty more.
I'm just looking at a picture there. So Steve Renouf.
To me, Steve, if somebody said, what's a rugby league? If somebody said, like, tell the aliens what a rugby league centre is, Steve Renouf would be who I would show them.
Yeah.
He was just like the absolute gold standard. And the fact that for the Australian team, it was like the centres just picked themselves, and it was Meninga and Renouf. And it was like, oh, my God, what a time to be alive.
I mean, as an opposition team, you go, right, we've got to defend these two blokes. You go, okay, what are we looking for? Look, you need two good defenders. You go, well, you need one bloke who can stop a tank, and you need one bloke who can stop a leopard.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's a good way to put it.
How are we supposed to find that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I used to pretend I was Steve Renouf when I was at school.
He was just amazing to watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Who's we got here? Billy Slater.
Yeah, he was all right.
He went all good. Sam Burgess.
Shall we stop here?
I think we should, because there's a few other names.
Okay.
Right. Not that all of the other ones don't deserve to be there, but there's a few other names that I'm going to have a bit more discussion about.
Can I ask you a personal question, Andrew?
Look, go ahead.
Would Sam Burgess be in your Rugby League Hall of Fame? No, what the fuck are we doing?
No.
What the fuck?
I'll tell you this, okay? I would have had absolutely zero issue whatsoever if they had said Luke Lewis instead of Sam Burgess. And I'm not saying anything negative about Luke Lewis.
100%.
I think Luke Lewis was comfortably a better player than Sam Burgess.
How about this? Sam Burgess's career in the NRL. Line it up with Tony Puletua's. Tony Puletua had a much better career.
Hey, why not with Gareth Ellis?
Yeah, why not? like I could if Sam Burgess is in there, where the fuck is Quentin Pongia?
Oh, John Lomax.
Yeah, this is what I've been doing all fucking week in my head. I've been going through all these players that I've been like, where the fuck is Brad Thorne? Where's Tony Carroll? Tony Carroll. Like, where's he? There's so many players that when I saw his name there, I was like, is this the nominee list? Because this is silly. And then it was like, no, he's in the Hall of Fame. It's like, that's fucking ridiculous. Where's Malcolm Riley? Is he in the Hall of Fame?
Well, so that was the first one I thought was Malcolm Riley. One of the criteria was they had to play the majority of their game in Australia. And so Riley didn't qualify under that one. He played the majority of his time in England. But Malcolm Riley as a forward shits on Sam Burgess.
It's one of
Riley was insane.
First of all, like a lot of English players at that time, like I think of Mike Stevenson the same way. It's like a monster, a competitive monster. Like this thing, this otherworldly thing that will not let you beat them.
Yeah. I don't get Sam Burgess on there. You know,
it doesn't belong.
This is going to sound biased. I'd have Robbie Farah on there ahead of Sam Burgess.
Well, 100%.
I don't get the Burgess thing at all.
As you say, fucking Luke Lewis.
Yeah.
Way deserves to be in there before a Sam Burgess. Like, it's supposed to be about having a Hall of Fame career, not a few years of good form.
Yeah. I that's what I just did not get at all. Cooper Cronk.
Look, he's probably a Hall of Famer.
I'm okay with him being there. I think he's the epitome of a Hall of Fame player, right? He did have a long career, very successful career, won plenty of premierships, had a decent tenure in the Test side, played a lot of Origin games. What more do you need from a human being to be on the Hall of Fame?
That's a good point.
So I figured it's hard to say no to him being there.
Yeah, I think in terms of like he had a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Lionel Morgan. Now, I'm not opposed to Lionel Morgan being on there.
Mm-hmm.
I do. This is going to sound bad.
Okay.
I do worry that the reason why he was put on there was because he was the first Indigenous player to play Test football for Australia. And that should not be the reason why, because he was a magnificent rugby league player.
Yeah.
Irrespective of his race, religion, whatever else. But
see, I don't honestly know much about him.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just too often I read about Lionel Morgan, and that is the first thing that's attached to him is first Indigenous player. And I was like, yeah, that's a great thing to celebrate, but I don't want that to be the reason why people think of his name as being Hall of Fame, is because he was the first Indigenous player to do it. He was fucking elite.
Yeah.
Right?
I get what you're saying. And it makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm 100% on board with him being there. I just wish that the NRL would not talk about the main reason for him being there was because he was the first Indigenous player. There's a lot more to his career than just that. Because it kind of sounds, when they do it like that, to me, it sounds a bit like they're making it a token gesture, and I fucking hate that.
I guess it's kind of similar when you hear them talk about Daly Messenger in a way. It's like, oh, he was the first big signing, and it's like, no. You're leaving aside the fact that this guy was a champion player who did all of this amazing stuff. Like, it wasn't about him being like this landmark signing to start the league or anything like that. So I get what you mean.
Yeah, as I said, I have nothing but the highest of praise for Lionel Morgan as a player.
Yeah.
I think he is so much more than just being the first Indigenous rep player for Australia.
What
He's
era
so
did he
much more.
play in?
Well, it's the thing. He played for quite a while. I don't know the full details of his entire career.
Yeah.
Because most of what we've got that I've done research on has been his career in the either international level or in the Sydney comp. But he did play throughout the 60s.
Okay.
He did play quite a bit, I believe, up in the Queensland comp.
Yeah.
Their comp was a bit smaller, I believe, than the Sydney one. It didn't go for as long, so probably didn't have a hugely long career as far as number of games played.
Yeah.
And he did play. He played 3 tests for Australia in 1960. Played a handful of games for Queensland as well. Played a lot of rep football up there for Queensland teams. It doesn't sound like he's got an extensive rep career, but rep football was really weird around the 50s and 60s because there was so much more games being played by the national side.
Yeah.
And a lot more tour games being played. And by the time... So, in the first 30 years, touring teams that come over and they play several games against New South Wales and a few others against Queensland. Mm-hmm. And so players in that period would often have a lot of rep games at state level. And also, the games between New South Wales and Queensland weren't 3-match series back then. They were 5.
Yeah.
So you could rack up a ton of games for Queensland and New South Wales back then. But by the time the 50s and 60s come around, it was 3 games between Queensland and New South Wales, and then you might play 1 game against a touring team, and that was it. So you'd have 4 games a year, at best. If it was a World Cup year, then you'd have less games for Queensland. So it come down a fair bit. But he played 16 games for Queensland from 1960 to 1963. He scored 15 tries in those 16 games in a period when Queensland was being monstered regularly by New South Wales. He was an absolute standout. He scored points in every single game he played for Queensland against New South Wales.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Look, anytime somebody talks about like, oh yeah, he played Test footy in the 60s, I'm like, oh wow. Like,
that's the thing. You've got to look at who you're up against in those times as well.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal player. Played against France in 2 tests, and he played. Actually, all his tests were against France. So he had 2 tests against France in the 1960 series, and he played in the World Cup at the end of the year as well.
Yeah.
Let's have a look who was in that Australian squad at the 1960 World Cup. Just to let you know who his contemporaries were, I guess.
Yeah.
Keith Barnes, Dud Beattie, Ron Bowden, Tony Brown, Brian Carlson, Reg Gasnier, Brian Hambley, Ken Irvine, Noel Kelly, Rex Mossop, Barry Muir, Gary Parcell, Johnny Raper, Elton Rasmussen, Harry Wells. There's quite a lot of successful premiership winning players in there and a lot of players from Sydney. Not many from outside of Sydney. And that's the fact that he got in there just at the age of 22. And it's hard to put it into words, just how good he was and how quick he was. Brilliant. He didn't just come on and slowly ease into it. He was just brilliant from day one.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But yeah, absolutely deserves to be there. There's no doubt about that. None whatsoever. Who else was on there? Les Boyd.
Okay. So for me, I didn't understand it because I know Les Boyd was a very good player and I understand the era he played in and I understand how the era ended that he played in, and he was probably the last one to get the memo. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. And I think that if he wasn't getting suspended for fucking years at a time, I don't think people would be talking a huge amount about Les Boyd's career, and it was a very good career. It was a solid career, and there's plenty of other great players around that era that people don't talk about too much. But I didn't think he was a Hall of Famer personally. What do you think?
I'm a bit torn on this one.
Okay,
because if he had have played even like his career had been 5 years earlier,
mm-hmm.
then those suspensions that got attached to his name at the end of his career that people remember him most for would not have happened.
No.
Right? And that's not to say that suspensions weren't justified.
They definitely were. Yeah.
They were. But it just means that some of those suspensions would have just had a bit of more of a blind eye turned to them, and people would remember him for something completely different to what he was remembered for.
Mm-hmm.
He was very fiery on the field, not just constantly getting into fights and stuff like that. Yeah, he did that, but when he ran the ball, every run was with such what's the right word? Intensity.
And you know what?
Man was fucking intense. You know, you get those moments with Liam Martin where you just go, what the fuck? This bloke's gone insane. That was Les Boyd for 80 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say Liam Martin. That's awesome. And I tell you what, he's like Les Boyd's name lived through the 90s and his reputation is generally just being a hard bastard. You know, It was very definitely alive in the 90s.
Well, he was still playing in 1994 in country rugby league,
and it's that's the thing. It's I just didn't think he was a Hall of Fame worthy player, and it's not to say he wasn't a very good player. I just think that he wasn't a Hall of Fame player.
The problem you get is it is hard to look past the two big suspensions he had. So the first one was breaking Darryl Broman's jaw, which saw him get suspended for 12 months.
Yeah. And by the way, he got 12 months for that.
Yeah.
Darryl Broman still fucking cries about it, and he needs to stop. He just needs to stop. I understand it was probably horrible for him. I understand that it changed his career a little bit. But at some point, you're like nearly 70 years old, and you need to fucking drop it, man.
Yeah.
You can't cry about it. You got to say, yeah, I got my jaw broken and had a good career. What can you do? You can't just keep going, oh, you fucking still don't like the guy. Let's
be honest, his jaw works now.
Yeah, it's fine. He's been fine for a long time. He needs to just stop crying about it.
I'm just going to hold myself back a bit there. So that was in 1983 when he broke Broman's jaw.
I see what you did.
And then so after he spent that year off, he came back in 1984, and after just a few games, he was suspended for eye gouging Billy Johnston and got an 18-month suspension. That's it. He goes over to England after that start, and he played over in England for Warrington for a few seasons, and then got suffered a few broken arms over there, and then came back and started finishing. Played the rest of his career in country New South Wales. But he started the Magpies in Sydney in 1976. He played, I think, 2 seasons in the bush before then. And he retired in 1994 as captain coach of Harden Murrumburra back in the Riverina near where he grew up. A 21-year career. That's something. But
would have been
as to the Hall of Fame thing, this is a thing where I think that needs to be recognised in the Hall of Fame is, that old best and fairest thing needs to be brought in. Sure, not everyone on there has got a completely clean record, but he's the first guy on there to have copped both a 12-month and an 18-month suspension in the space of 3 years.
Yeah,
and I think sometimes things like that need to be taken into account because it wasn't the only time he did foul play on the field and got suspended for it. It was something that was a bit of a moniker for him that people knew him for.
Yes.
And so I think that needs to come into it. I think that has to play a bigger role in people saying, yep, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And you go, yeah, but then there's this. That misdemeanor side of his career is as equal to the skill and the brilliance that he had on the field as well, that saw him become a test player and all that sort of stuff as well. And because of that, you've got to say it kind of cancels each other out, and you can't put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's
a rough one. It's a rough one. But
look, as you say, if he had have started his career in say 60, 65, and he played the peak of his career through the 70s, he'd have been right at home.
He'd have got 2 6-week suspensions out of all of that, and that'd have been it.
Yeah, and we probably wouldn't have even talked about it. It just would have just been one of the things that happened. Like it happened all the time in the 70s. A horribly brutal moment in the game's history of the 70s. But yeah, when that's the first thing you talk about, is I think that says a lot.
It does. It does. It made me wonder why the NRL chose Boyd, knowing it would be contentious, and knowing that there probably are a number of other players they could have considered instead.
Yeah. That's
one that could have just been consulted later. You could have just put other people there.
It felt like
I mean, Sam Burgess is there, Christ.
Yeah, I mean, the Sam Burgess thing to me was just fucking ridiculous. But then the Les Boyd thing, it almost was like he was friends with the people on the committee or something like that. And I don't know if that was the case or not.
The first thing I saw
a weird one.
When I saw his name there, I thought, okay, they just want to make sure that they've got someone from the 70s on there.
But the thing is, there's so many players you could pick from the 70s.
Of course.
That's what I don't get.
No, I don't get it.
I just didn't get it. It was like a weird one, you know. As I said, he wouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame for me. And that's not saying
there was a bunch added as well. I didn't expect them to add this many in.
Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is it 10 or 11? Yeah, it's a whack. But yeah, they were our Hall of Famers and our immortal.
Did you see the players that were on the short list for the immortal possibly being?
No, I missed that.
I did see. I don't know if it was an official list or not, but some of the names I saw on it were pretty interesting. Like there was just some that stood out to me, like a Langer or a Fittler. I'm trying to think of other players that were on the list. They're the ones that stood out to me anyway, those two. But there was like 10 or 12 players on the list.
Have they got the list here? Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, no, hang on. What's that? No, it says here there was a 13-player shortlist.
I saw it on Twitter. So, I haven't got it to hand.
No, that article basically just lied.
Because the thing that stood out to me about the list when I looked at it was that how modern it was, and how you kind of like this is just the vast majority of rugby league history is kind of just pushed to the side, and I don't like that.
Oh, here they are.
Okay.
So some of the nominees for the 14th Immortal: Brett Kenny.
See, to me, he would not be an immortal.
Cameron Smith.
He's going to be one day. He just is.
Yeah, absolutely. Ron Coote, who got the nod. Alan Langer.
He's a Hall of Famer, but not an immortal.
Darren Lockyer.
Oh, man.
I'd have Darren Lockyer as an immortal.
I think he's an immortal. I'm just thinking, like, you don't hear people talking about Darren Lockyer much at the moment. And for me, I hold Darren Lockyer as one of the best players I've ever seen play. I think he was one of those like, oh my God, he's done it again players.
He was, that's the official term, clutch as fuck.
Oh, it's just, I've never seen a clutchier player than Darren Lockyer.
No. So calm. Just in control of everything all the time.
Imagine the clutchiness that Nathan Cleary has shown over 15 years. Doing it over 15 years. Absolutely. Like, that's what you're aiming for. It's crazy.
Peter Sterling.
Not an immortal.
Ken Irvine.
As a winger. I tell you what, I would have him as an immortal.
Yeah, I would.
It's Ken Irvine.
Yeah.
We've talked about that record. It's the reason it's so difficult for everyone to get near.
It's almost a voodoo thing. As soon as someone gets close to it, something happens and they don't get there. Billy Slater was closing in on it. Didn't quite get there.
So many players that were like, oh, yeah, they're going to do it. And then it's like, oh, it's over.
Even the start of the year, we're going, Alex Johnson has so much a chance of getting this. And then he gets the worst injury of his entire career. Just as closing on 200. Yeah,
and like one of those injuries where it's like, especially for a winger, where it's going to be hard to come back from that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an absolute voodoo, that thing. How the hell did someone do that?
It's crazy.
Oh,
the fact that we play so many games now too,
and we still haven't got there.
Yeah, and we're in a higher try scoring era as well.
And there's a higher focus on scoring tries because they're worth more points now.
Yeah, and yet that record is like a fucking beacon out there. No one's getting it at the moment.
Yeah, Alex Johnson is 17 short of equaling the record.
So close.
Billy Slater. 3 years out from retiring, and he was 22 shy. Steve Menzies went over to England, and he ended up, when he came back, finishing, 32 tries shy.
It shows how amazing it is. It's like...
Yeah, you just have some players come on and go, they're flying towards it. Brett Morris was, Brett Stewart was, Michael Jennings was, Nathan Merritt was.
Brett Stewart's a really good one. He was like it was like, oh yeah, he's got this. Yeah. And then it just is over. It's amazing.
232 games Brett Stewart played 233 games and scored 163 tries. Of all of the players on that list, from 146 tries, is it? No, 100. Sorry, so there's only 8 players there. 159 up. Sorry, he had the least number of games, other than Alex Johnson at 225.
So when you start to get towards the dudes that had a really high try scoring rate, but they got to like 100 tries, you can't have those guys because it's like you got to have like another 2.5 careers.
Yeah.
Of what you've done. So you got to wipe those guys out, and then you got the 230s and stuff. And like if you've had a whole career and you're in the 230s and stuff, you're never in the race.
No.
That's why when you get to the about 60 mark, then it's like, okay, here you've got the absolute elite. They've also got the longevity, obviously, in a lot of cases, and it's still there. It's still fucking there.
So from Brett Stewart, Brett Stewart had 163 tries, right? He played 233 games.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was Terry Lamb, who scored 1 try more and played 350 games.
Mm-hmm.
E.T. scored 166 tries. He played 328 games.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Morris, 176 tries, 276 games. Steve Menzies, 180 tries, 349 games. Then we're into the top 3. Billy Slater, 190 tries in 319 games. And then Alex Johnson, 195 from 227. And Ken Irvine with 212 from 238. The 3 there who have got a very similar try scoring record is Irvine, Johnson, and Brett Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
but as soon as they get close, something happens.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works.
Yeah. Makes you wonder how many tries Ken Irvine would have scored in with so many games that we play now. And then in the sort of, as you say, where the try is more valued now, it's...
Well, the crazy thing about Ken Irvine's record is that he had 2 seasons where he played less than 4 games and didn't score a try in either of those 2 seasons.
That's nuts.
His first year was 58. He played 3 games, no points. And 1968, he played 1 game and scored no tries.
Like, if you think of his try scoring, even if it was like, say, let's be conservative, 230.
So if we do the maths, so he played from 58 to 73. What are we looking at here? 15, 16 seasons? So if we have 16 seasons, say he played 20 games every year.
Mm-hmm.
That's 320 games. Right, so we go here, 212 divided by 238 equals that, times 320. That puts him at 285 tries.
God damn.
If he plays 320 games.
Holy shit. That would be unattainable. No one would get that.
That's insane.
Like, you would have to be a winger that played like 400 games and had a healthy career.
Yeah, and be constantly in a successful team.
Yeah, you couldn't, and by the way, can't have one down season.
No, that's the thing. He had those 2 seasons I mentioned were the only 2 seasons in his career, not only where he didn't score tries, but where he didn't score at least 13 tries in a year.
Mm.
Every other year he scored at least 13.
That's so insane.
He had, I'll just go through them quickly, from 59 down, went 19, 16, 17, 15, 16, 15, 13, 13, 14, 17, 16, 15, 13, 13. And every season he's played less than 20 games, except for 69 he played 21 games, and in 71 he played 24 games. So he's going close to a try a game every single year.
Yeah.
Sometimes over, sometimes under.
So crazy.
It's nuts. Oh, man.
I mean, I think, look, I think Alex Johnson is a really nice dude. Apparently he's one of the smartest players in the NRL as well.
Yes.
A really nice dude. If he ended up being the top try scorer, it'd be an absolute ornament to the game. But there is part of the history buff in me that's just like, I like that try scoring record being out there and unattainable. It makes me wonder how long it's going to take for somebody to equal Cameron Smith's games record.
Yeah.
That's going to be another one where people, I reckon, are going to look good, and then it's going to be over quick.
I think his point scoring record will get overtaken before his games one does.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if Cleary got that.
Yeah.
Cleary's in a good position, but I tell you what, the injuries, they're already getting him now.
You know what? I know there's been a few shoulder ones, but hell, how many people looked at Benji Marshall in his first 5 years and thought, no, this kid's got no fucking chance. And he ended up playing over 300 games.
That's a good point. I also think with Cleary that, like, he's 26 now. He's obviously, about in his physical prime, or coming into it. And the way that he throws himself around defensively is like insane. That's part of what they all do at the Panthers. I think if he gets to a point where he sort of goes along the route that Alan Langer did towards the end of his career, where he become much more of a man manager than using his physicality, and looked after himself during a game a bit more physically. If he did that, I don't think there's any reason why he wouldn't have a very long career, because he's obviously like, the rugby league pedigree in his family, which you may have talked about a little bit before, and I think people don't realise how outrageously good it is with uncles and stuff like that even.
Yeah.
There's so many boxes that he ticks as a person and as a athlete, and with his background and things like that, he could have a very long career as well. But like 400 fucking games, it doesn't even seem real, that record.
It does seem crazy. It's
Like if someone said there's a player that's starting his career right now and he's going to play 400 games, you would sit them down and tell them why that's not actually possible in the modern game, and yet it just happened a few years ago.
Yeah, he's nuts. Man, if he can just double his career from here, and so get to 330, 340 games, and he keeps going at the current rate, he's going to score 3,000 career points. Yeah. But that's the thing. He hasn't played a high volume of games at this stage either, given that he's had 2016, 2018, 2022, and 2024 have all been seasons where he's played less than 18 games.
Yeah. I just think
half his season, so it's
I think it just comes back down to the way he's playing the game at the moment. It's like really brutal. Like he's a big dude, and I think he plays like a big dude, you know. And I think that at some point he's going to have to not play in that same brutal way he's playing.
Yeah, everyone knows his dad's Ivan. They know he's got an uncle, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know his grandfather also played in the first grade?
Who did he play for?
His name was John Stewart, and he played for Newtown in 1968.
Oh, that's so cool.
And he was a front rower. And he never won a game.
Oh, really? Poor dude.
3 losses and a draw.
You know what? He banked his winning. He banked his winning in his chains.
He never played against Penrith either.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's the reason he didn't get a win. If he'd have played against Penrith in that era, he would have got a win. But the weird thing for Cleary is when you were telling me about almost his family tree and how he's got first grade footballers on his dad's side, obviously with his dad, but then he's also got them on his mum's side as well.
Yep. And
it's just like, this perfect scenario really where you're going to end up with eventually you're going to end up with a dude like Nathan Cleary.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was one more player left on that list, and that was Jonathan Thurston.
Yeah, and like Hall of Fame, and not even a question.
Yeah.
It was cool to see all of those Queensland players from that dominant era that they had get into the Hall of Fame. So we can forget about that entire era forever, because I hate it.
That seems fair. Let's move on now. What else has gone on the Water Rugby League? Yeah, we've got that. That was a pretty big chat about all that stuff.
It's because we really could. We probably had this conversation friggin' 3 or 4 times before. We've just never recorded it. Huh?
Yeah.
But look, the only other thing that's really stood out for me is the Panthers versus Storm game last weekend, and I don't think it moved the needle. It was a close game. I think Cleary, obviously, he got his shoulder injured. He's going to be back for the finals, and we've seen that movie before. Hopefully it ends the same way. But looking at that contest, I don't think we come out of that contest thinking, the Storm or the Panthers. I just think it was kind of almost a stalemate, and I still think it's between those two teams though going into the finals.
It was a weird game. I was watching it thinking, it's not very often that a team gets 2 tries up on the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Panthers scored, 2 tries in 3 or 4 minutes or something?
Yeah.
I thought, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
They're going to take off and they're going to go raw past them. And then they just kind of stopped. It's almost like they decided, we're back in it now. Let's just get back into the match now and grind and going. Yeah, but you had the advantage. Like, why not keep pushing and get further ahead? It's like, we got this. And then Qatar got that second try to put the Storm up at halftime. Well, they were up anyway, but Penrith then clawed it back again. You go, here we go. They're coming again. And then they just stopped. Then there was that try by Wishart. And you went, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think You just kept waiting for that final 20 minutes for that extra Panthers trying on. It's got to come. It's coming. It's coming. But at the same time, you're expecting it to come, but at the same time, you're watching the Panthers going, I'm not sure they've got it in them this time around. It just doesn't feel like they were clicking properly. And then the Cleary injury, well, now they're just done.
Yeah, I think the Cleary injury, like I was pretty confident they were going to win until Cleary got injured. And then it felt like it was a bit of a handbrake on the momentum that you thought they were about to get to win the game and ice it. They lost by 2 points. And that second half was like, man, that was like 3 games in one in terms of all the stuff that was going on in it. Excuse me. But, I come out of that game thinking like the Storm won. The Storm have beaten Penrith twice this year at home and away, and that is something. I don't know how much that's going to count for in the finals, and because we've seen that before with the Parramatta Eels. But I think had Penrith let the Storm get that lead and then it had sort of romped home, I think it would have been like, oh, well, what's anyone going to do now?
Yeah.
But I think it's just a stalemate is the way I saw it, and that it's really is just those two teams. I can't see anyone. I think the Bulldogs on their day might have something they could do, particularly against the Storm. I don't know if I'm wrong in thinking that.
No, that Bulldogs defence is... I'm going to call it... I'm going to say their defence this year, especially in the back half of the season, is remarkable.
It's very good, yeah.
And their attack doesn't need to be great, but at the same time, it's getting better at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulldogs are there is the final 4.
Yeah, I agree. I don't rate the Roosters. I definitely don't rate the Sharks. Like, they're just nowhere. And everyone else. I think Manly can obviously jag a game, and we saw that earlier this year when they just flat out beat Penrith. But it's still a 2-horse race. But I don't think the Bulldogs could beat the Panthers. But I think they could do something against the Storm in the right circumstances. That's the way I feel about it right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks get to the 3rd week purely because they would be too good for whoever they're playing in the 2nd week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
The Roosters, I'm not sure, on even in that 2nd week game.
I just think for the Roosters, their halves are just too much of a target for being poor defensively, and I think it'll be just a bit of a wake-up call when they hit the finals and everyone steps up. I don't think they've got enough gear in them.
So I've been surprised that teams have not been targeting their halves defensively, because those halves have been given a free rein for a lot of this year, and that's why they've scored so many goddamn points and why they're so high on the ladder. And fair play to them. But it's surprising me that teams haven't tried to shut them down.
Yeah.
To me, that's the goal nearly every team has against every other team. For some reason, they come up against the Roosters and going, nah, they'll be right. Just let them run.
Yeah.
And they've been racking up points like crazy. It's...
And the other thing about the Roosters too is like, I think like they haven't beaten the Panthers in something like 3 or 4 years, and they've got 1 win against the Storm in like the last 3 or 4 years. So their record against those two teams is absolutely abysmal. That's another thing that stands out for me.
Yes.
And I guess the only other thing, like if you were just going purely on results, you would say Storm are definitely favourites. But I think we've all seen the fucking nightmare that Penrith are at times in games that really matter, that it's hard to not think someone has to beat them. Like,
crazy thing is, I think both those sides have coasted through the year so far.
Yeah, same here.
Which is scary for the other teams in the comp.
Yeah.
They're not even trying anymore, and they're still dominating.
True. And like there's been games where we've seen the Storm have just put it on someone, and it's like, holy shit. And then the Panthers are like, when the Panthers played that game against the Sharks, and it was like stop, they're killing them.
They're dead already.
And they're probably the only two teams that can go to that level.
Yes. Well, the other thing that's interesting is because the Cowboys got the bye this week, they jump up to 5th temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
If the Bulldogs don't beat the Warriors, then next thing you know, Cowboys are now 5th, Bulldogs are 6th.
Mm.
I think the Bulldogs would rather be 5th because they'd be playing with whoever's 8th, which I think whoever that is, it's going to be Dragons, Dolphins, or one of Broncos, Knights, or Raiders. And I don't think it's going to be either of those three, to be honest.
No.
Although
I would bet that there are plenty of teams that are hoping the Broncos stay on the outside because they've got the talent. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. And they've got the most favourable run coming into the finals as well because all their 3 games are at home. So they're probably the strongest chance to get in, but they're 2 wins behind the Dragons.
Yeah,
if the Dragons win this week against the Sharks, that's almost going to shut out the top 8, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the Dolphins have got the Storm. The Storm are probably going to start resting players because they're 2 wins clear on the top of the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised they start resting a few players and get prepared for the finals.
Be interesting if they rest Munster because Munster, he's coming back slow from that injury.
Yeah.
And he kind of needs the time on the field, but at the same time, he'd be the first player that I'd probably rest, him and Hughes. Even Pappenhausen, they've got a really good replacement for Pappenhausen, so I wouldn't rest him. But yeah, him and Hughes are the 2 big ones for me that I would rest. And they will. They just will.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What else have we got? Have we talked ourselves to death yet?
I think so. I can't.
Do we have any emails?
No, we don't have any emails this week.
I thought I'd spring that one on you.
If people want to send an email, just go to the website fergoandthefreak.com and go to the contact section and send us an email, and we'll read your email out and answer any questions that you've got. But yeah, I can't think of anything else that's really jumped out. There was the story tossed up again. The NRL's officially in talks now to buy Super League.
Oh, that's on again.
Yeah, it's grifting. It's officially grifting at this point.
Actually, there was another story that happened during the week that I did briefly see. And that was, actually it wasn't during the week, I think it was last week.
Mm-hmm.
Controversy around Latrell Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
He drinks vodka cruises.
Yeah, he's drinking vodka cruises, which if they're going to put those sorts of substances in their body, I think we should just ban them for life. Vodka cruises reminds me of a line out of the movie The Departed, where it's very early on in the movie and he orders a drink, and I'm not going to say what the line is, but anybody that knows the line, they know what I'm thinking of. That was the first line I thought about when I saw that he's drinking vodka cruises.
Come on, man. Not another one.
Yeah. It's funny how many times vodka cruises have been around when something's going on, hey?
Yes.
It's weird.
I think what they need to do is just ban vodka cruises from all players. The cocaine is fine.
Allegedly. Jesus.
Don't worry about the heroin. That's fine. The methamphetamines, that's all fine.
I just thought
steer clear of the vodka cruises, please.
I just thought of because it's a very grainy picture. And super, super grainy.
Oh, you can't. They're going about how they think it's a white powder. You can't see whether it's a powder or what the fuck it is. Who cares?
I thought he was grading diamonds.
I thought he was just looking at the phone book. That's how I look at it. You got to bend over.
Yeah,
because I'm 112.
Do you realize?
What does that say?
I was going to say, do you realize how many people are listening, going "What's a phone book?"
Exactly. Hang on, you read a book? What the fuck are those things?
Imagine having a book where all the numbers were in it and it was just all alphabetical.
Oh, man.
Doesn't even sound real anymore, does it?
Tune in next week when we tell you about street directories. Yeah, you had to Google you had to be Google yourself.
Yeah. If you think your GPS sucks right now, just wait until it's like, and there's a left now. It's like, what? I needed to know that beforehand. It's all right. You can go right. When? Just back there.
And every other instruction is, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's a road there. Where?
Do you know
back there.
Or the amazing moment where it's like, do you know where we are? It's like, yeah. And then you see them turn the map the complete opposite direction. It's like, oh, we're fucked.
Or they start flicking really fast through the pages.
I remember somebody, right, that I was in a car with, and we had to there was somewhere in like, it was maybe somewhere in Concord, funnily enough, that we had to get to. No, it was before Concord. You know where it was when I think about it? It was fucking Homebush. You know the big centre in Homebush?
Yes.
The big, like, going there. I'd never been there before. And I was with somebody and they said, oh, yeah, I know where we're going. I was like, cool. Getting the M4, driving. I'm like, got to turn soon. You know where we're going? Yeah, you just keep going, right? Driving. Fucking Balmain. Driving. I'm like, look behind us. You can see the stadiums behind us. That's Homebush Stadium. Like, when we're wrong. And they're like, no, just keep going. It's driving. I said, listen, if we keep driving, we're going to drive into the fucking Pacific Ocean here. I'm pulling over, right? But I let them get so wrong that we went past fucking Balmain. And yeah, then they finally accepted that they were wrong. But I let them be that wrong. It was good.
Yeah, we've gone beyond wrong now. Now we're wronger.
Yeah. And I remember like seeing this. You know when you get near the stadium, you can kind of see it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, there's the stadium. The turn-off's got to be here soon. And they're like, no, keep going. I'm like, all right.
Oh boy.
That same person said to me once, "Would you be able to drive me to Campbelltown?" It's like, yeah, definitely. Got to be there by say 9 a.m. All right, no problems. Because I've been a designated driver in my family for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Get them there. Okay, we've got to go in this building. Got to meet someone in, say, like building A, level C. Get there. It's a fucking library. Seems wrong. I'm like, you sure this place? Yeah. It's the place. And then I was like, double check. And they're like, it's the place. I'm like, all right. Then I double check. I've got to be in Bankstown in fucking 10 minutes. From Campbelltown.
Those towns sound the same. But next time if someone says to you, you're in Penrith, and they say to you, can you get me to Campbelltown? Absolutely, no worries. You drive to Penrith train station, you go, off you shoot.
So
only take you 2.5 hours.
I really like driving, so I like doing those sorts of trips where you end up somewhere just weird. Except for if it's that part of the world that you made me fucking drive to, you bastard. Like
I don't even know where that is.
I hate that part of the world because the roads just suck, and it's all just like there's no natural flow to anything.
No, it's like being in Canberra, except instead of having normal roundabouts, it's just long streets that just turn into roundabouts.
Yeah.
Hang on, I've been here already.
Yeah. Everywhere in Canberra looks the same.
Yeah.
Except for where all the sex shops are.
Well, all the sex workers don't look the same.
I don't know. Never been there, but I've been.
Oh, that's what a mate of mine from Penrith told me.
Yeah. With the goat, there's a goat on the side of the road.
That's the one, yeah.
Let me tell you. No, I'm not saying.
I'm just gonna pull up a chair. You keep talking.
If there are any people that are listening from Canberra, they'll be like, "Oh my God, there really is a goat in the side of that road."
And to all the people in Tamworth, they'll agree as well. They see Canberra every day.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, on that enlightening note, thanks for tuning, everyone. We've given you 2 hours. Hopefully, we've made up for the missed content for the past week. I'll try not to get whacked in the head this week. Can't make any promises, but I'll try. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check us out on all the socials. Go to YouTube, subscribe, and like all the videos. That would be great. And we'll catch you all next time.